Hey everybody, this is Dennis. Just wanted to share some things with you today. I'm a little bit agitated over something that I was reading on a Facebook post earlier today. The topic had to do with Christianity being under attack in the United States, Christianity and Judaism, and somebody was noting that this is part of a plan. Anyway, there were like over 1,000 comments on that post, and I read maybe two or three dozen of those comments and was just appalled at what I talk about all the time, which is the terrible, terrible theology of the church. It's absolutely the body of Christ just has deplorable theology for the most part, and that I would say represents at least 90% of the body of Christ, at least in the United States, and I suspect in most of the Western world. If I could boil down the comments, they basically boil down to nothing to worry about, God's in charge. It's true that you have nothing to worry about if you're walking with God, but I see very little of the church doing that. And as far as God being in charge, God is sovereign. He can do whatever he wants. And one of the things that he wants is for you to do your jobs. He gave that sovereignty to man. He gave it to him in the garden, and he's never changed his mind about that. In fact, in Matthew 28:18, he says, all authority in heaven and earth, Jesus, after his resurrection, all authority in heaven and earth is given to me. Go ye therefore. He didn't need that authority for himself. When he came on the scene, he was doing miracles of healing, raising people from the dead, multiplying loaves and fishes, calming the wind and the waves, basically doing whatever he wanted. That was before the crucifixion and the resurrection. So he didn't need that authority for himself. He won it back as a man so that it could be restored to man who lost it through Adam. We lost that authority. Jesus got it back. He got it back so that we would walk in it. And very little of the church is walking in it. So anyway, try this experiment. Go to your church and begin talking about raising the dead and healing the sick and et cetera, and see the look on people's faces as they back away from you, looking at you like you just told them you have a unicorn in your garage. They will not like it in most cases. I'm sure there's some exceptions within your church, but mostly the church is not going to. Try saying that to your pastor and see what your pastor says. And this is really troubling because, in my experience, you will get negative reactions if you start talking about those things. And in 2 Timothy, it talks about in the last days, men will, deny the power of God. And from such, turn away, Paul says. Don't be associated with them. But generally speaking, in the church today, they deny the power of God. They do not want to walk in the power of God because they're not willing to make the sacrifice required to do that. And it does require sacrifice. It's not automatic. Jesus said go. He meant go. He didn't mean warm a church chair with your butt. Going costs. It costs you. We're beginning to enter into a time of revival, and people have been praying for revival, but they're not willing to go out and do revival or be a part of the revival. Charles Finney had about a 40-year ministry, I think, and there was revival everywhere he went, but there wasn't revival after he had been there. It died out quickly, and after he was gone, that revival period was over. Why? Because people aren't willing to pick up that cross and walk with it. We have people every day who every day they get up and they put on the armor of God, but they don't put on their shoes because they're not going. Shoes is part of the armor of God, and people aren't wearing them. If you look at in the book of Isaiah, is it chapter 4? Yeah, chapter 4, verse 1. Book of Isaiah, chapter 4, verse 1. It says, 7 women shall take hold of one man in that day, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by your name. Take away our reproach. Now, this is because there's basically a forced famine in the land because Israel has sinned. They've sinned by worshiping idols. And God is, judging them for the sake of bringing them back to Him. That's why He's doing it, to teach them not to have faith in idols, but to have faith in God alone. And the whole book of Isaiah is like that. He says in another verse in Isaiah, cease ye from man, whose breath is in his nostrils. Your help is not to be found in man. But anyway. So let me read it again. 7 women shall take hold of one man in that day, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by your name. Take thou away our reproach. When I'm interpreting a dream for somebody and if there's women in their dreams, usually the women or a woman will represent the church. Okay, so here's 7 women. 7 is the number of completion. Women represent the church. 7 women represent the church as a whole, okay? They say we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Basically, these represent whatever it is that you need. The way I look at this verse is the people in the church, they want to eat their own bread. They want to wear their own apparel, but they want to be named by the name of Jesus. They want to be named by the name of Christ. They want to be called Christians, but they're not eating the bread of Christ, and they're not wearing the apparel of Christ. They're basically idol worshipers who are worshiping their own picket fence, worshiping their own mortgage, worshiping their 2 car payments. And they can't go because they're saddled by all these things, and this is what they're worshiping, and this is what they're expending their efforts on, expending their time on. This is where they put their energy and their focus. They don't put it on the going that Christ ordered us to do. So they want to eat their own bread. They want to wear their own apparel, not the bread and the apparel of the Lord. This is a problem. Like I said earlier, we are entering into a time of revival. Many of the prophets now are saying this is the 3rd Great Awakening, and right now prophets are being held in poor esteem. That's a mistake because we need the prophets, and personally I absolutely believe that we are entering into a 3rd Great Awakening, and I think this Great Awakening is going to be the greatest one of all. From in all of history since the time of Jesus, this is going to be the greatest one of all. And an awful lot of you are insisting on eating your own bread and wearing your own apparel, and you are not going to enter into this. This is a very, very dangerous place. I expect that what's going to happen is some of you who are not invested in going are going to be turned around and you're going to go. That's my prayer, and it is my expectation. I think there's an awful lot of you that are going to be found to be tares instead of wheat, and that should scare you. Do I need to tell you how serious that is? I shouldn't have to. It's serious, and you need to think about this because there's a very good chance that this could apply to you, and you could be in danger of this. So my advice to you is to get your shoes on and go and start eating the bread that Christ offers and wearing the apparel. Clothe yourself with Christ, not with the world, and just begin to do the works that Christ told you to do. I'm going to leave it right there for now. I would love to hear your responses. I would love to hear your questions. I would love to hear your critiques. Let me know, and I'll talk to you again soon. Love you all. Bye.